Welcome back. Well, yes, we will go ahead and talk about the minimum wage with the NLC president in the moment. But just before that, you do remember that last week we did talk about the NIMC, the NIN, and how JAM wanted prospective students or those who wanted to go write JAM to ensure that they get that NIN number, and that without that NIN number, they can't be allowed to register for JAM. So that generated some talk, and so we do have our correspondent, Darido, who's gone to NIMC office in Alausa here in Lagos to get an update on what does it even look like, because we understand some people usually go there by 4 a.m. I was shocked to hear that. Hello, Dari. What do you find? What did you find when you got there?
Yeah, thank you very much. We're reaching you live here at the NIMC office in Alausa. And as soon as we got here, around 6 a.m., people were already here on the queue. They said there's usually a process of them writing their names, and people who even got here around 5 a.m. said people were already on the queue. And that's not all. There's a major problem. The commission says it cannot handle all the people coming in at once, because if you look behind me right now, there's a whole lot of people waiting in line, waiting for them to have themselves registered. The process, one of the reasons why it seems a little bit complicated right now is that candidates who are writing the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination have been mandated to come with a NIN. The NIN is the National Identity Number, and they said they must have this number. Many of them are on the queue right now, and the commission said they don't have enough manpower. Funding has been a problem, and since people got here since morning, a lot of people are still waiting in line, waiting for them to have their registration done. They said this process has been like this for days. Some of the people who are here have been here last week, and still they don't have it done. A lot of frustrations. Many people, most of the people we've been interacting with this morning, like this young lady, will be sharing her experience. Can you please tell us your name and your experience this morning?
My name is Aliton Lawal, and I came here for around 6 a.m., yes. And when I came here, I've already seen a multitude of people here already. Only for the officer to come out and say that they can only attend to 150 personnel at the moment, and they have to be JAM bites, students first. And they told us to go to other centers. I don't understand. And they also asked for my BVN, and I'm wondering why are they asking for my BVN, and I still have to go through all this process. So right now, I've been told to go to another center, while people that have been to other centers came back here for collection. And I don't understand what's going on.
Okay, so that's one of the complicated part as well, because they said the other centers, local governments are supposed to be issuing this number as well. But the thing is, it's not just about the card. They said the number. The NIMC is actually supposed to be in charge. NIMC is the management commission in charge of national identity, and they're actually supposed to be in charge of the cards as well. But they seem to be having a bit of a problem with that. They can't distribute the cards. So they are now sticking with digital identity. By digital identity, they want people to have just a number, which will suffice in terms of passport renewal, and students who want to write JAM, and tax verification and all of that. But right now, here in Alausa, many of the people here who are on the queue are still frustrated, and they don't even know when they'll be attended to.
One more thing, Dari, before you go. Is there any conversation whatsoever about if they have to write this exam in less than 2 weeks or thereabouts? Is there any communication between JAM and NIMC so that those students will not be apprehensive, or they know that, yes, they've been able to work out something? Should NIMC not be able to get them the NIN number before JAM or before that time when registration will be over? Have you heard any word about that whatsoever?
Yeah, we don't have any word as regards that yet. But what I can tell you is that the board, by the board I mean JAM, and the commission, NIMC, said they're working in collaboration to make sure that more people have this digital identity, and that is why they've mandated the students who will be writing this exam to have the number. They haven't said anything yet about whether there's going to be any waiver eventually, but what I can see right here is a whole lot of the word you use, apprehensive, is the best way to describe the students and also their parents who have accompanied some of the students around here who are really, really angry about the fact that they made this requirement in the first place. And what the lady said again is another area of contention. They said they're asking them for BVN. They said some of the students don't even have an account already, and are they supposed to provide a BVN? And if they have a BVN, which is the source of identity in the first place, which means the data would have been captured, why wouldn't that suffice in the first place? So many questions, and we're still asking officials around there we're still going to get some feedback from them to know what the official reaction of the commission is.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Dare Ido. Well, we don't have to make things difficult for ourselves in this country. We just need to find a way to sort these things out. Well, let's head to Abuja now and get back to our conversation on the minimum wage. Markwe.
Well, we sincerely hope that that's one knot that is getting loosened and perhaps almost resolved across all states. But we have with us right here Ms. Comrade Ayuba Waba, who is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, to tell us just how they're doing. I mean, how are the states faring, especially after the December 31 deadline, which Nigerian Labour Congress had given them?
Well, thank you very much yet again for this opportunity to try to look at this very thorny issue. Let me say that we're actually on track, and the federal government have actually set the pace. They have been able to meet up all the obligations, including the payment of the arrears. And let's not also lose sight of the fact that from the day the president assented to the bill, it becomes a law. And therefore, states have no reason not to respect a law that had been enacted. So far, so good. We have about 10 states that have concluded the process of collective bargaining, and some have commenced payment, because I want to categorize them into about 3 categories. First is those that have respected the deadline, and this include Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Lagos, and Ebonyi State. We have those that are still on the table, and they have up to 6th, which is yesterday, to actually complete the process. This constitutes about 23 states that are on the discussion table, and we have seen commitment.
That's majority of them. Almost.
Yes, we have seen commitment because we insist on the process of collective bargaining because we don't want an allocation of peanut to workers. Because the principle of collective bargaining is enshrined in the international labor law that workers should be able to know what they will be paid. Because the 30,000 is already a law. What we are discussing is the consequential adjustment. What will be the quantum? You know that even in the informal sector, when you engage an artisan, either a carpenter or a bricklayer, you discuss with him how much you are going to pay him, either per hour or per day. So this is the principle. And that's why the unions are interested in looking at the details before it's signed. Some will go and pay peanuts, and that's what we are trying to avoid. So we have 3 states that are yet to commence anything. And we have already instructed our state to usually...
Which states are those? We
have Cross River, Kogi, and Taraba State. In these states, they are yet to even constitute the negotiating committee. And from what I've received as of yesterday, because this report was updated yesterday, these 3 states have not shown enough commitment to actually start the process of negotiating and then implementing the minimum wage. So this is where we are. But clearly speaking, I think, you know, before the agreement between the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council and the federal government, the states were hiding under the issue of saying, okay, once federal government is able to conclude their own arrangement, we are going to follow suit and we'll be guided. But they thought that will not come to an end. But here we are. We have completed that process. Arrears are being paid. Every federal worker is being paid. But now we have the situation with those few states. So we will still engage them, but certainly there must be a timeline to conclude all those processes, because when we allow the arrears to accumulate, then it becomes also very compounded. Let me assure you that We have been very reasonable, and the states have been very reasonable. Some of the states have been able to put the facts on the table, which will be the basis for discussion and negotiation, but some are still hiding the facts. And let me say clearly, where there is commitment and prioritization of the issue of human capital, there will be ability to pay. But where the priority is not actually about developing human capital and developing our human resource, then they will not find means. They will have excuses on why they cannot be able to pay. So we said, put the facts on the table. And that's why we insisted on a collective bargaining process, which is a fundamental right in labor. It's guided by a convention, Convention 87, that we must discuss the details.
So are your workers and the unions in the state chapters being given full autonomy to negotiate on behalf of the workers in the state? Or do you see the NLC at the national level intervening in any state process? Where
there is a stalemate, we will certainly intervene. But the first step is to allow the unions, particularly the NLC, the TUC, and the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council in each state to engage their employer, that's the state government, directly to negotiate the details in the consequential adjustment, because it's already a law, and therefore there is no excuse not to respect our law. So that is the first step. But where there is a major setback, then we'll then intervene. Both NLC, TUC, and the Joint Council leadership will then intervene to try to assist them in making sure that the issues are addressed.
What would you call a setback? In the instance where a state government, says that they are hampered financially to pay, and maybe are not able to meet commitment, and they are saying that the state chapter of the NLC is showing understanding, will you be intervening in such a matter?
First, the understanding is that the 30,000 minimum wage is already a law. And therefore, anybody that does not implement the law also have breached a law. And therefore, we should not allow people to go scot-free when they undermine our laws. First is that let's understand the context of the minimum wage. The context of the minimum wage is actually to address the issue of the working poor. Workers are working, but they are poor. They are below the poverty line. So one of the strategy and the philosophy behind the minimum wage is actually to bring many workers and their families out of poverty. That is actually the issue. And to make them to become productive. A hungry worker cannot become productive. A hungry worker cannot go and teach. A teacher that is hungry or a surgeon that is hungry cannot certainly perform effectively. This is the logic and this is the philosophy. And therefore, why we have insisted on a process of collective bargaining is bring the facts to the table. If you say your resources are not enough, bring them to the table. Why hiding? That's what we did, even at the federal level. Bring them to the table. What is your internal generated revenue? What are other sources of revenue that we have? What about the allocation from federal? Bring them to the table. Let us look at the issue. So that's why the 30,000 is minimum. Some states are paying 36. Some are paying 34.
My point is, if all of these facts which you are asking for are brought to the table, and you do find that indeed some states are hampered by whatever reason that they are hampered for, and the state chapter is showing understanding, and as such, the law has been observed in the breach, will the national intervene? That's what I'm asking.
Certainly. We have not seen a situation where a particular state have come out clearly to say, I'm hampered, and those are the facts. If you have incurred a lot of debt by funding Why Elephant project because our procurement system is flawed, we should be able to point out that where there are issues. And we have done that in the past. This is not the first minimum wage we are implementing in Nigeria. Minimum wage started as far back as 1981. And those recurring issues have continued to be on ground. If there are challenges, why are political elites on maximum wage? All of them, from councillor to the highest office. Have any state come out to say that, well, because we are not endowed, I'm going to reduce the salary of political office holders? So these are the arguments. So let's put the arguments on the table. We will be ready to engage the process.
You have 10 states that have commenced full payment and are not in any breach or in whatsoever manner. You have 23 states, the bulk of them still in negotiations, still in talks. Some say, oh, we're already wrapping up. For instance, the conversation we just had with the Ondo State representative and the NLC chairman in Ondo State say, oh, we're almost done. By this week or so, we should have put pen to paper. But, you know, some might still drag for a little longer than that. Are you going to be given another deadline?
Yeah, if the reasons are genuine, will be very reasonable. But like I said, if, for instance, a state have not started anything and the areas is building up by the day, you know, it's going to be a complicated situation. So we'll look at the issues as they come and we'll be very flexible and we'll also be very reasonable to some extent. But also considering the fact that workers have been at the receiving end. Today we are talking about a tariff of 70% increase. How much is the utility bill in the 30,000 minimum wage? How many workers can afford this outrageous bill? This is the reality. Except we want to continue in the same direction and expect something to happen to address the issue. No, it cannot happen. We must address the issue. And we must look at the reality of the issue. So those are the issues. Cost of transport have gone up from 2011 to date. Cost of food have gone up from 2011 to date. Cost of the most important commodity, fuel, have gone up. Now we are talking of utilities. Yet, the salary have remained static. How do you expect a worker and his family to survive and continue to provide quality services to Nigerians?
The question is, are you going to set another deadline?
No, certainly we are not going to set another deadline. That will be on the basis of specific requests from states. But the deadline we have set for 31st certainly stands. And in the weeks to come, we are going to engage all those states in the normal way of labor.
Are you saying that you're satisfied then with the level of compliance that you have seen so far, given the December 31 deadline which you have set initially?
Well, let me say that we are not fully satisfied, but we need to commend those states, particularly the 10 that I've mentioned, that have actually complied. And that's to say that if there is the will, certainly there will be a way. And if those states I've mentioned, 10, have complied, then other states have no reason. It's about their priority. Is human capital not a priority? In the process of in the process of production, one of the most important elements is actually human capital.
Do you think that we will be going? Will there be any strikes? I mean, that's one of the things.
Yeah,
that people are
if need be in a particular state where the government remain adamant, we'll have no option because workers are not slaves. That's the only instrument we have, which is recognized by law. For a worker that have not been paid, cannot meet up his bills, cannot meet up his obligation to withdraw his services and demand that justice is done.
So for this 23 on the negotiating table, how much longer are you giving them? By when do you hope that?
Well, our structure will have to meet. We are going to meet within the week. NLC leadership, TUC, and then the Joint Council. We'll review the situation state by state. Where we need to send intervention, we'll send state intervention from the leadership. And where we need to take some actions, we'll also make sure that workers are not undermined, their interests is not undermined in any way.
For the 3 that have not constituted any committees, what are you going to do?
Action will also be taken in that respect.
What action?
You know our action. The action is simple. The workers will have to either through a lockout or through withdrawal of their services or through other means that are allowed by law. The labor laws are very rich. Our labor laws are very rich about what a worker can do, where he's right. Because one, it's already a law. So any state governor that failed to implement is violating a law. And if it's violating a law, in fact, there is provision in the law now to enforce it, including payment of arrears at a prevailing rate of a commercial bank. It's there in the law.
Interest?
Yes.
Interesting.
When you fail to implement, then you are under obligation to pay arrears to that worker. It's there. It's enshrined in the law. And it can be enforced by the worker, by the unions, and through collective action.
That is very interesting. Well, we sincerely hope that the 23 states, the majority which are still negotiating, will complete the negotiations on time, especially in this new year, and ensure that they pay their workers and also whatever it is that's owed them in arrears. As for the 3, well, we wait to see what the action of Labour will be in that regard. We have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Comrade Ayuba Waba is president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Sunrise Daily continues in a moment to take your feedback and comments. Please stay with us.
you.